They called it the cleanest state in the Union. By sunrise, it would be known as the most compromised piece of ground in American history. At 3:47 a.m., in the dead heart of Sandstone City, Arizona, federal agents kicked down the doors on what investigators now describe as the largest cartel political infiltration ever uncovered on U.S. soil. 11 tons of narcotics, 2.1 million fentanyl pills, $460 million in laundered cash, 73 sworn officials, from beat cops to a sitting governor, found with their names burned into cartel ledgers. And this, agents say, is only the surface. Stay with this, because the deeper it goes, the worse it gets. It began at 4:32 a.m., a thin desert fog hugging the asphalt, neon signs from shuttered casinos buzzing against the dark. The streets of Sandstone City were dead quiet, the kind of quiet that hums in your ears. Then the convoys came. Black SUVs, no headlights. Armored trucks rolling like ghosts. FBI tactical units, DIA strike teams, ICE enforcement squads, day specialists, and 3 SWAT companies moving in tight formation, splitting across 19 targets at once. They hit an underground casino tucked beneath a strip mall. They hit a cartel-run cantina on the south side, a so-called massage parlor near the rail yard, 2 warehouses owned on paper by a logistics firm no one had ever heard of, a drug fortress mansion ringed by cameras up in the foothills, and a hidden tunnel mouth disguised as a flood drain 3 blocks from the border crossing. Flashbangs lit the fog like lightning. Doors splintered. Agents in black moved like shadows through the smoke, weapons up, voices barking. Inside the casino, men in cartel colors scrambled for back exits with duffel bags of cash, fentanyl pills spilling across the felt of poker tables. Gunfire cracked in short bursts. A suspect went down clutching a satchel of methamphetamine. In the warehouse, agents tore through pallets stacked floor to ceiling, ripping open shrink wrap to reveal bricks of cocaine and heroin pressed with the unmistakable stamp of the Sinaloa cartel, alongside crates marked with the wolf head insignia of Ching. 4 tons of cocaine, 1.3 tons of meth, 600 kilos of heroin, and in the back office, behind a false wall, agents found something that was not supposed to be there. Sealed steel boxes, encrypted hard drives, a row of military-grade servers humming under a cooling unit, wires running into a hidden satellite uplink. One agent radioed in 3 words, "This isn't drugs." By 7:15 a.m., the contents of those drives were on a secured table inside the FBI Cyber Forensics Lab in Phoenix. Analysts in headsets cracked the first encryption layer in under an hour. The second took longer. When the 3rd layer fell, the room went silent. A network diagram bloomed across the main screen. They named it Operation Iron Mirage. Hundreds of nodes, shell companies, ghost corporations, offshore accounts in the Caymans, in Panama, in Cyprus, a sham nonprofit called the Desert Renewal Foundation, a chain of family-style restaurants stretching from Tucson to Albuquerque, a trucking firm with 300 rigs and 0 tax violations, a green energy startup that had never produced a single solar panel. Money moved like water, from a port in Mazatlan, into a freight company in Long Beach, through a charity wire in Miami, into a ranch holding company in Texas, and finally into the campaign account of one man. His name, they will tell you in the briefings to come, is Governor Marcus Halford Vance. 2-term governor. Photogenic. Beloved at ribbon cuttings. Father of 3, and, according to the encrypted files, the operational architect of the entire western corridor of cartel logistics. His digital signature, an authorization key embedded in the cartel's internal command system, sat at the top of the chain, every drug tunnel green lit under his watch, every human trafficking corridor through the southern counties, every migrant smuggling route that funneled labor and drugs through false agricultural permits. He had not just looked the other way. He had drawn the maps. He had turned an entire state into a cartel fortress, a drug empire hub with state-sanctioned protection. This is not corruption. This is command-level collusion. This is not negligence. This is engineered treason. And what the agents discovered in the next 12 hours would make this morning look like a warm-up. 5:58 a.m. the next day. A federal command center on the outskirts of Las Cruces. A digital wall the size of a movie screen lit up with red markers pulsing across 4 states, 62 locations. cartel safehouses, drug superlabs, tunnel entrances, trafficking transit homes, cartel-owned ranches. Listening posts. The mission was named Operation Iron Mirage Phase 2, and it deployed numbers this country had not seen on its own soil in decades. Over 1,400 federal agents, 46 SWAT teams, 12 Black Hawk helicopters thumping low over the desert, armored Bearcats rolling in convoys, 2 U.S. Navy patrol vessels repositioned along the Gulf Coast, F-15 fighter jets in racetrack patterns over the southern border for intimidation and airspace control, a Delta Force element on standby just in case the cartel's hardened commanders chose to fight. They hit a cartel superlab in an unmarked desert warehouse outside Yuma, agents pouring in through 3 breach points as chemists and respirators dropped beakers of fentanyl precursor, 4.1 tons of fentanyl powder. Enough to kill a generation. They hit a drug fortress mansion in the Catalina Hills, marble floors slick with spilled cocaine, gold-plated rifles stacked in a vault, a bound family of trafficked women freed from a basement room. They hit a tunnel system stretching 900 yards under the border, lit by string lights, ventilated by industrial fans, rails laid for carts loaded with narcotics. They hit a migrant smuggling convoy on Interstate 10, 12 trucks, false agricultural manifests, 63 people locked in the rear compartments, 3 tons of meth hidden under crates of produce. By noon, agents had seized over 40 tons of narcotics, 1,800 firearms, server farms running cartel communications, 2 communication hubs disguised as cell towers. They captured 11 cartel lieutenants, 2 regional bosses, and the chief financial operator of the Western Network, a man known only as El Vidrio. The underworld took more damage in 6 hours than it had taken in the last 6 years, and still, the worst was inside the badge. By Tuesday afternoon, investigators were buried in the seized servers, patrol logs, internal emails, encrypted text threads, bank transfers, bonus payments hidden inside fake real estate commissions, 241 law enforcement officers compromised, 38 border agents, 9 state troopers, 4 sitting judges, 11 state legislators, a deputy attorney general, a police chief in a small border town who had not made an honest arrest in 9 years. The patterns were chilling. Border Patrol grids falsified to leave 40-mile gaps timed exactly to cartel convoys. Raid schedules leaked through a courier inside the state attorney's office. Patrol shift changes engineered around the movement of drug tunnels traffic. In a back conference room, a young state trooper, 26 years old, sat with her head in her hands. Her own sergeant, the man who had pinned her badge on her, was being walked out in cuffs. "I thought I was doing good work," she said quietly. "I didn't know I was working for them." Federal agents arrested a deputy chief, a SWAT planner, and the head of the governor's protective detail before the sun went down. What they had uncovered was not a few bad apples. It was a parallel enforcement system, a second secret police force operating inside the official one, taking orders from cartel command and from the governor's inner circle. The badge itself, one veteran agent said, will have to be rebuilt from the ground up. And this was just the western edge. By Wednesday, the map zoomed out, and the room grew colder. Iron Mirage was not a state operation. It was continental. Trucking contractors moved cartel cargo from the Arizona border up through Nevada, into Idaho, into Washington, then east through Montana freight hubs and into the Great Lakes corridor. Fake green energy grants funded warehouse construction in 7 states. Agricultural routes from the Central Valley laundered shipments under the cover of produce. Port cities, Long Beach, Houston, Savannah, Newark, were quietly absorbing freight containers with altered manifests. Way stations along 3 interstate corridors had been ordered shut down for maintenance precisely on the nights cartel convoys rolled through. Investigators estimated the network was capable of moving up to 9 tons of narcotics per week without triggering federal alerts. 9 tons. Every week. For years. And buried in the deepest folder of Vance's encrypted vault, agents found a file labeled simply Phase 12. It was not a smuggling plan. It was a constitutional plan, a blueprint to install cartel-aligned officials in 7 more state governments over the next decade. A shadow government, designed to shield cartel operations not for years, but for generations. The state had not been infiltrated. It had been redesigned, rebuilt from the inside out, brick by brick, law by law, signature by signature, to be a permanent home for the cartel's future. And no one had noticed, because the men who were supposed to notice were the ones holding the blueprints. So here is the part you should sit with for a moment. Power does not always need open violence. Sometimes, it only needs silence. A signature on the right form, a patrol that turns the wrong way at the right hour, a judge who looks at the floor instead of the file, ambition dressed in a tailored suit, walking past a flag it no longer believes in. The real cost of this story is not measured in tons of cocaine or pallets of fentanyl pills. It is measured in the kid in Ohio who never woke up after one bad pill, the mother in New Mexico who buried 2 sons in the same year, the neighborhoods hollowed out by meth, the families broken by heroin, the trafficked women who never made it home. This is not just a crime story. It is a warning about how quickly democracy can be rented out to the highest bidder, and how silently a country can be sold while its people are still saluting its flag. If you are still watching, tap like so more people see this story. Comment expose if you want this kind of corruption dragged into the light. Share this with someone who still believes the system polices itself, because the next Sandstone City could be any city, in any state, on any morning.